Let's talk about something most homeowners rarely say out loud. Rising electric bills don't just create frustration, they create anxiety. Not always immediately, not always dramatically, but quietly. Over time. You open the bill, you glance at the total, and there's a small moment where you think, why is this higher again? Maybe it's $20 more, maybe $40, sometimes much more during extreme weather months. And while the number itself matters, the deeper concern is something else. It's the feeling that the cost is slowly drifting out of your control. Today, I want to unpack the hidden fear behind rising electric bills, not emotionally, but structurally. Because once you understand where that feeling comes from, the situation becomes clearer. The illusion of control. Most households believe they control their energy costs. You turn off lights, you unplug devices, you install efficient appliances, all reasonable steps. But here's the reality most people eventually discover. Your electric bill isn't determined only by what you do. It's influenced by a much larger system. Infrastructure investments, regional demand shifts, transmission costs, grid maintenance, delivery charges. Many of these factors are outside household control. So even when you reduce usage, the total can still rise. That disconnect between effort and outcome is where the hidden fear begins. Energy is not optional. There's another difference between electricity and most other expenses. Electricity is essential. You can cancel streaming services. You can postpone buying a new phone. But you cannot stop heating your home in winter. You cannot stop refrigerating food. You cannot realistically eliminate electricity from modern daily life. Because energy supports almost everything inside a home: heating and cooling, refrigeration, lighting, communication devices, internet access, medical equipment in many households. When a service becomes essential, losing control over its cost creates pressure, even if the increases are gradual. The monthly reminder. Unlike many other costs, electricity arrives as a monthly reminder. Every bill is a small signal from the system. And if that signal keeps trending upward, people begin asking questions. Is this normal? Will it keep increasing? How high could it go? The uncertainty matters more than the number itself. Uncertainty erodes confidence in long-term planning. And homeowners, especially those managing family budgets, depend on predictability. When predictability fades, the emotional response grows, not panic, but concern. The structural problem. To understand the deeper issue, you have to look at how the power grid operates. Electric utilities manage massive infrastructure networks. Power plants, transmission lines, substations, distribution systems. Maintaining and expanding these systems is expensive. When utilities invest in upgrades, regulators often allow those costs to be recovered through customer rates over time. That means infrastructure improvements eventually show up on monthly bills. Not all at once. Gradually. At the same time, energy demand continues to grow. Electric vehicles, data centers, electrified heating systems, expanding digital infrastructure. As demand increases, utilities must reinforce the grid. Again, costs are distributed, and the system keeps moving forward. From the perspective of the grid, this process is logical. From the perspective of a homeowner opening their bill each month, it can feel unpredictable. Why people feel powerless? Here's where psychology enters the picture. Most people want to feel they can influence the outcome. When you exercise more, your health improves. When you save money, your balance grows. But when you conserve electricity and your bill still rises, the feedback loop breaks. Effort no longer guarantees results. And that creates a subtle sense of powerlessness. Not dramatic, just persistent. When bills become stress. Signals. For many households, energy bills now function like stress signals. During extreme weather months, the spike can be dramatic. Air conditioning in the summer, heating in the winter, families already managing mortgage payments, insurance, groceries, and healthcare costs suddenly face a new unpredictable variable. And unlike discretionary spending, energy cannot simply be eliminated. That's where the fear deepens, not because electricity itself is scary, but because dependency without control feels risky. The blackout factor. There's another layer most people don't think about until it happens: reliability. When a storm hits or infrastructure fails, the grid can go down. During an outage, the dependence becomes visible. Lights go out, refrigerators stop, heating systems shut down. And suddenly, the household realizes how many systems depend on that single energy source. This realization changes how people think about electricity. It stops being just a bill. It becomes infrastructure. The shift in thinking. Once you see electricity as infrastructure instead of just a utility, new questions emerge. Questions like, how dependent is my home on the grid? What happens if power stops for 24 hours? Or 72 hours? Is every essential system in my home tied to one external supply source? Most households never ask these questions, not because they're careless, because the grid usually works. And when something works most of the time, we assume it will always work, until the moment it doesn't. From fear to awareness. The goal here isn't fear. It's awareness. Rising electric bills reveal something important about modern life. Homes are deeply dependent on centralized energy systems. That dependency creates convenience, but also exposure. Once you recognize that exposure, the conversation changes. It stops being about frustration. It becomes about planning, not extreme planning. Not disconnecting from the grid entirely. Just understanding the structure of your energy supply. The real question. So the hidden fear behind rising electric bills isn't really about the money. It's about control. People want to know they're not completely dependent on a system they cannot influence. They want stability, predictability, and some level of independence when it comes to essential infrastructure. That doesn't mean rejecting the grid. It means thinking about how much reliance is necessary and how much is optional. On this channel, we explore these questions calmly and logically, not with fear-based messaging, not with unrealistic solutions, just practical conversations about how modern homes use energy, where vulnerabilities exist, and how families can think more clearly about long-term stability. In upcoming videos, we'll break down why electric bills continue to rise even when usage drops, what actually happens during multi-day power outages, how households identify their essential energy needs, the difference between full dependency and partial resilience. If these topics matter to you, if you want clear explanations instead of guesswork, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to explore practical ways households are starting to reduce their exposure to rising energy costs and total grid dependency, you can check the resource linked in the description. You'll also find it in the first pinned comment. It connects directly to the structural issues we discussed today: the growing gap between household control and centralized energy systems. Because once you understand the real reason rising electric bills create anxiety, the next logical step is learning what options actually exist. Subscribe, check the link in the description or the pinned comment, and I'll see you in the next video.